Hello and welcome. I'm not sure, but I think that I might be just about finished modifying my Schwinn AL Comp. So, what have I done since the last time I posted this bike a couple of weeks ago? Well, I have made a couple of significant upgrades. But before we get to those, let's recap where I started and where I have already been. I bought the bike in November of 2021 with the intent of building a bike for winter road use. Something to keep busy with. In stock form, the AL Comp was a good bike for $248 at the time, if not a great bike. It has a well-built aluminum frame with a 3x7 freewheel setup in stock form and what I can only call a bare bones spring fork. In that stock form, I would say it's a good bike for rail trails, gravel roads, very green mountain bike trails, and in-town commuting. Now it may say mountain bike on the hang tag description, but trust me, it really isn't. So, I modified it with a polished vintage Shimano crankset, because it was shiny, honestly, and rear derailleur. I installed a set of Goodyear 27.5 by 2.2 inch knobby tires instead of the stock 2.0 all-purpose tires, some lock-on comfort grips, and a set of Blackburn resin pedals. The rest of the upgrades were from my parts bins and included a wider 720mm carbon fiber handlebar, an alloy Uno seat tube, and a WTB saddle. To make it better for winter riding, I also installed a set of mud guards. And then I rode it, 2 or 3 times that winter, preferring my fat bike for outdoors and my trainer setup for indoors. It seemed a shame, though, to not be riding the bike. So I upgraded the headset to sealed bearings, and I installed a 120mm travel SR Suntour XCM fork instead of the stock 65mm travel fork. I already had the XCM left over from my Polygon Siskiu, so this upgrade only cost me about $18 for the new headset. Now, while the XCM is a spring fork, it has a lockout, and it was a couple 100 grams lighter. But best of all, it really improved the ride quality on trails. That stock fork just wasn't built for it. And at that same time, I swapped in a spare 2x Shimano crankset, since I had never used the big ring on either the stock or the replacement 3x units. And this also allowed me to switch to external bearings, which are much better than the stock square taper cup and cones. Last time I modified this bike, I added Bucklos wheels and Bontrager tires because I wanted to install a cassette, and the stock wheels are set up for a freewheel. However, instead of the 27.5 inch wheels I ordered, I was delivered 29ers. Well, yes, I could have returned them, but that felt like kind of a pain in the hindmost to me. Some folks, when given lemons, they make lemonade. I decided to make a vodka martini with a twist, and so I installed the 29-inch wheels with a set of spare tires that I had kicking around. And son of a gun, they fit. I'm not saying they had lots of space, but they fit. Which brings us to the present. I picked up a set of American-made Weinmann 27.5-inch wheels with 27.5 by 2.3-inch Continental Mountain King tires. Now these are really nice double wall alloy wheels with Wheelmaster hubs. I put the tires on my Polygon Siskiu, and I mounted the Siskiu's Spiderbait, and yeah, that's what they call them, I'm not making that up, 27.5 by 2.2 inch tires on the Weinmann wheels along with a Shimano 9-speed cassette on the rear wheel. I replaced the 2x crankset with an IFX 1x with a 32-tooth Snail narrow-wide chainring, and both of those came from my parts bins. Up front, I installed an aluminum Acekit FMF XTR handlebar and a spare set of Oury lock-on grips. And shifting is now handled by a Shimano Altus shifter and Altus rear derailleur. Oh yeah, there's one last upgrade. I installed a TranzX 110mm dropper seat post, which I already own. I routed the external cable through the frame guides for the front derailleur, which were now empty since I switched to a 1x setup. And this gives the cable routing a really clean, dare I say, factory look. So I guess the reasonable question is, why not just buy a nice hardtail all set up? Now I've got a little over $500 involved in this right now, so it's close to being the equivalent of an entry-level bike shop bike. But I have several reasons for doing it the way I did. First, I already have a great hardtail, my Specialized Rockhopper 29er. Second, this gives me a 27.5 hardtail as well as a loaner bike. And third, honestly, this stuff is fun to me. I love working on bikes as much as I do riding them. So basically, you could say that I bought a $248 frame and built a bike, riding as I upgraded. And you know, all in all, I really can't complain about this build. It took a while and there were a couple of false starts. But right now, I'd ride this bike pretty much anywhere I'd ride any of my other bikes. Although, hydraulic brakes would be nice. There is a playlist linked below left that pretty much documents this AL comp from stock to present. And there was a link to another video lower right that I think you will enjoy. And as always, thank you for watching. I really do appreciate that. Goodbye and have a wonderful day.